I was cast in that TV show because I looked the part. I didn't know how to act at all. In fact, I remember my first take was some 32 takes. So I was waiting for it to release. 2 years went by and it didn't release. And in those 2 years, everyone told me you shouldn't take up more work right now because, you'll overexpose yourself. When I didn't take up any work in those 2 years, they would repeatedly call me for different auditions, but I would just say no. So eventually people stopped calling me.
Yeah.
And when I realized that the film is shelved, I had to start all over again. The first time I ever took to therapy was in 2016. That is just before Dear Zindagi is when I took to therapy, because at that time I was going through something that I felt that I didn't know how to maneuver through it. There were so many thoughts, but I couldn't put them together or make sense of it. I think misconduct is not just physical or
Verbal. Can be verbal.
Yeah, and that's happened many times. And earlier I didn't know how to deal with it, so I would just distance myself. Now I call it out. There have been times where people have, started yelling and started shouting, and that's when you realize that it's a sunken boat. You can't do anything about it.
Ludo and Mismatched made him a star, but not many know that behind that stardom has been years of struggle. Today joining me for a conversation is Rohit Saraf, only on Bollywood Bubble. So, hello.
Hello Nayan, thank you so much for having me.
When I talk to people about you today, they know you, they love you, but there was a point when you were trying to gain this kind of a recognition and you had a lot of backlogs, you had a lot of struggle, if I may use the word.
Of course.
When did you start off in the industry? People don't know about it. People don't know your story.
I started when I was 15 actually. I started, I used to live in Delhi before and gave random auditions out of nowhere because thought that I want to try it because it was always, everyone knows that it was always my dad who wanted me to. So I gave auditions and thankfully out of the first seven that I gave, 3 of them worked out. One of which was this youth show on Channel V that I did long ago. That was the first ever job that I did that made me move to Bombay. So started off with that, and then of course didn't enjoy the experience so much because it was just too big a difference in my life. I came from school and then suddenly from that to being on set for 18 hours, 19 hours a day was too much. So I didn't enjoy it, and then that I took a back seat a little bit. I took a back step and really thought if I want to do this or not. But then thankfully at that time there was a film called Banana that was being made, which was being made by John Abraham and Sheel Kumar. They were producing it and Sajid Ali was directing it. I think they saw me on one of the TV commercials that I'd done back then for KFC, Disney, all these things, and they called me in for an audition, and I went there and I gave the audition, and so there were multiple rounds of auditions. We auditioned for 4 days I think, where they made me do 2 or 3 scenes a day with all different emotions and whatnot. And then I bagged that film, and that was the highlight of my life at that time, because in my first year of being in Bombay, I'd done a TV show, I'd done many TV commercials, and I had also bagged a film as the protagonist, and that meant everything. I felt this is what I'm meant for, and I'm so glad to be here. And I shot that film, and I truly believe, I've not said this before, but I truly believe that was the film I learned so much. I think those were those 3 months of me being with the crew, being with the director, and the writer of the film, Saurabh Swami and Sajid Ali. Whatever time I spent with them is what really opened me up. Before that, I wasn't cast in that TV show because I knew how to act. I was cast in that TV show because I looked the part. I didn't know how to act at all. In fact, I remember my first take was some 32 takes. For what? I had to walk in and I had to look up, and I gave 32 takes for that. So I didn't know how to do that at all. Whatever I learned about acting was on that set, little bit, the initial years of whatever, opening me up as a person, as bringing me to a point where I knew the basics, and then now I had to go out and explore. It happened on that film. So I was waiting for it to release. 2 years went by and it didn't release, and in those 2 years, everyone told me you shouldn't take up more work right now because you'll overexpose yourself. And
these are casting directors, these are people from the industry.
yes, I mean, no casting directors, people I worked with around at that time, they said you shouldn't take up more work, market will be different for you when the film comes out, you've done well. So I believed them, and they were right. Of course they were right. So I didn't take up any work for 2 years at that time. And what had happened was, initial whatever number of months that I spent in Bombay, I spent that time to build relationship with casting directors, by making sure I go for every single audition and, being very respectful. I built that relationship with those casting directors, and when I didn't take up any work in those 2 years, they would repeatedly call me for different auditions, but I would just say no. So eventually people stopped calling me. And when I realized that the film is shelved, I had to start all over again, call all those casting directors. A lot of times I also heard, but what happened about your film? Almost like a jibe of sort. And then I started again, and thankfully I met Nandini, Shrikant and Karan Mali. I absolutely love them. They gave me Dear Zindagi, I auditioned for it. So Dear Zindagi happened. After Dear Zindagi, then What Will People Say happened, which was Anmol and Abhishek. And after that Hichki happened, which was Shanu. And then Sky is Pink happened, and then Mismatched happened, Ludo happened. So yeah, then after that there's been months and months where I've not had work, which also because I also blame it sometimes the fact that I've started too early. I started at 15, so and after a point I wasn't looking like a child, but I'm also not looking like this hero, so there is very little that you have.
Have casting directors ever said this to you, or like taken mean jibes at you? Because when I speak to people, they say fit, unfit, and they say a lot of things that can demotivate you or demoralize you. Have you had such experiences ever?
No, actually. I mean, if I think about it, I've heard it from people that this one said this about you. I don't want to believe it, but because I didn't hear it myself. The casting directors that I've had the fortune to work with in the last couple of years, they've been exceptional.
No, before that, I'm saying, when you were actually struggling to make a mark, did you face any kind of difficulty? I'm
still struggling to make a mark, Nayan, and I'm not being I'm not being modest over here. I mean,
but you've arrived. People know you. This is the kickstart that you always wanted.
No. I wanted something bigger.
No, but you will of course get something bigger, and you are made for bigger things. I always believe.
What I'm trying to say is I'm very appreciative of what I have today, but people recognize me, but making a mark is very different in my head.
Your definition is different.
Very, very different. This is not me making a mark. This is, people recognize me also because face is plastered on Netflix, so people recognize, but no. So casting directors have never said this to my face that you're unfit or you don't act well or any of that. Nobody tells that to a person. I've not seen it. I have heard that other people say that this casting director doesn't like you, doesn't call you for this, that, whatever, because XYZ. They think that you're not a good actor, and that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. Whoever I've worked with so far, and many people I've worked with casting directors especially, a lot of times there are casting directors who have auditioned for so many times but things haven't worked out even once. But the ones that I have worked with very frequently is Karan, Karan and Nandini, then Anmol, Abhishek, Shruti Mahajan. All these people, when I've auditioned for them, they've been very, very kind and so supportive, and to a point when anything comes out, anything new releases, no matter how small or how big, they always make sure that they send their wishes. They always there have been times where casting assistants, directors who are now directors, have called me and wished me and made me speak to their family because they love. So they've been very, very kind. The fraternity in general actually has been very kind.
But have you ever lost out on films that you really wanted to do because somebody else just got it, or somebody else who was in more influential position got it?
I wouldn't know what the reason is that they got it, right? Like if I'm auditioning for a part, I believe that I wasn't good enough for that part, which is why I didn't get it. I would like to have this confidence in myself at least, that if I'm appearing for a part where I can fit, I will bag it. I will give it my blood, sweat, everything into that audition, but I will make sure that I do more than just 100% to give it everything that I have. After that, if it works out, doesn't work out, it's not in my hands. So if I get the news that, hey, you haven't got it, I would like to move on immediately and not ponder on upon why I didn't get it or what was the reason, who got it. I don't want to know those things.
But at the same time, you did leave studies to be here. Like, have you ever thought of, like, what was that decision tough? And have you ever thought of completing it?
No, I haven't thought of going back to it. That decision honestly wasn't tough for me at all. It was tough for my family to digest it and be okay with it. They were obviously very, very supportive of it. For me, it wasn't tough because I knew what I wanted to do, and if I thought that maybe I should complete it and maybe I should go back to it, and if I doubted or gave myself that option, I know that I would not be as passionate and as driven towards this career. I didn't want to give myself another option that what if it doesn't work out? It has to work out. No matter, it'll work out 10 years later, but it will work out, and for those 10 years I'm okay waiting.
But this is your 8th year in the industry, and you've lived on your own from a really young age. How difficult has life been to stay away from family at that tender age and trying your mark in an industry which is filled with uncertainty?
I mean, it's very tough. I don't think age has got anything to do with living alone. I know.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I know really young people who, maybe they just go to the hostel. They don't live on their own, but they go to the hostel. That's still being away from the family. I don't think age has got anything to do with that, but it's damn hard, man. It's, I think the toughest moments when you're living alone is, I think your meals, when you have to eat on your own, or let's say I bag a project. First thing I want to do is I want to go hug my family, and I can't do that because, there's a good news, but I can't physically be there to share it with them or celebrate it with them. So I think those are the tough moments. Of course, when shit goes down in life, it's very, very tough to be on your own. However, I don't think that if I can call myself independent, which my manager would refuse to believe. She doesn't think that I'm independent at all. But if I am independent today, it's only because I lived on my own, and I would have had my family with, I don't think I would be able to do what I can do today very confidently.
So you can cook?
Oh, 100%. What do you want to eat? You tell me that.
You better invite me and cook. I want to see how.
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm brilliant.
Maggie.
You've 1 second. Lockdown, I made samosas. Okay, I made gulab jamuns. I made burgers. I am bloody. I made dal makhni, kulchas, everything. You tell me what you want to have, and I will make it for you.
Done. I'm going to take you up on this. But are you staying alone, or are you staying with friends, or?
No, I have a help who helps me with everything. I think if I didn't have a help, I would just not eat. But I have a help, and I have 2 doggies. Their names are Rudy and Pishu. So yeah, I have those 3 at home.
Rohit, but there's an important topic that you spoke about when you went through one of the lowest lows in your life. You took to therapy. I don't think people today speak about it as often. We are speaking about it finally, but I don't think that it's still as often as we should or we must. And then there are there are things that happen around it which jitna bhi momentum बढ़ता है वो पीछे आ जाता है. So I want to know, like, when did you start it, and who did you speak to? Like, did it come to you, or did somebody help you with it?
So I do think that we are, like you said, we are beginning to talk about it a lot more. I mean, kudos to people who have actually gone out and spoken about it, like Deepika, so openly, So I started, the first time I ever took to therapy was in 2016. That is just before Dear Zindagi is when I took to therapy. Because at that time I was going through something that I felt that I did not maneuver through it. There were so many thoughts, but I couldn't put them together or make sense of it. So I needed, someone to kind of help me with that. The first time I ever actually thought about, going into therapy was, I have 2 of my really close friends in Bombay. Their names are Maxwell and Vidya. They're a beautiful couple, a very, very happy couple, and they've been someone who've kind of looked after me in Bombay, while my family has not been around. So Vidya actually is a dance movement therapist, and she's always, emphasized on mental health for many years now, like
Yeah.
decades, and she's actually studied it. So she was always very encouraging of it, and I was very skeptical and apprehensive if I should or shouldn't, because there was a lack of knowledge about therapy and mental health in general.
Yeah.
That it was even a thing, you know. And 2016 is when she told me that just go once, see how you feel. You don't have to continue if you don't want to. Nobody's forcing you. And that's when I told mom that, you know, mom, this is happening. And she's like, okay, but if you want, you can talk to me too. I said, no, I want to try this. And my family has never been someone who's stopped me from doing anything that I really want to. And that time I really wanted to try it because I heard some really, really inspirational stories of lives that I've lived, that have been, that people are living really well and happy. So I went and I tried it, got too overwhelmed the first time, because, you know, you're actually just telling your deepest, darkest secrets, opening up to someone you have no idea about. I do think that that's easier when you don't know someone at all. It's easier to speak to them about the shit that's going down in your life. However, I got very overwhelmed, so I did like maybe 2 sessions and then I left it, and I was like, no, I'm fine now, I'm okay, I'm good, and I'll deal with it on my own and whatnot. While I got overwhelmed, I also knew that that was the right thing to do. I knew that it's the right thing to do. However, I wasn't sure if I can do it at that time, so I didn't go back. But in lockdown, I went back into it. To my same therapist who I met in 2016, and I couldn't be happier that I did, because I feel like life is just so much simpler, it's easier, it's happier, it's more productive, you're not delusional, and everything is that goes on in your mind is something that's broken down. And that I think really helps. I mean, I really believe that 8 out of 10 issues can be figured out if you just sit with a calm mind and think about it. And I think that's what happens when you're in therapy, because you need another perspective. You need another perspective who understands human emotions, and therapists are essentially that. So I've been in therapy for a long time. My therapist believes right now I don't need more sessions for a while, so we've discontinued, but I'm sure some shit will go down and I will go back to it.
But let's hope that it doesn't happen. Like, no shit goes down, you can go back to her, but not.
I mean, shit goes down as in, like, I can get bothered even about like a project that I may not get. So and you know, you don't know what can trigger what. So I do hope I don't have to go back into it, but knowing what it's been like, I am pretty sure that something will happen. So yeah, it's been great. I love it. I fully endorse it. And I encourage it.
Before going, I want to ask you that, you know, when we speak to we always associate misconduct with women, but it actually happens a lot with men too, especially in the industry. Has it ever happened that anybody has made a wrong move on you, or tried making a wrong move on you?
I think misconduct is not just physical or
verbal. It can be verbal.
Yeah, and that's happened many times. And earlier I didn't know how to deal with it, so I would just distance myself. Now I call it out. You know, misconduct can even mean disrespect. I mean, disrespect can also be in the same category as misconduct, and that's happened on set of something that I was a part of, and I ensured that I called it out, because over the years, while you develop a thick skin, you also you know, are very sure about what's fundamentally right and what's not. And I'm very glad that I've had the people around me to kind of reiterate that in my head again and again. And I'm very sure of what's right and what's not right anymore in my life when it comes to people behaving a certain way with me. And I always ensure that I call it out if I'm uncomfortable, if I feel like that's not correct.
What happened? If you can.
There have been times where people have answered back, and then you realize the moment you call it out, most often than not, when you call it out, the moment you call it out, it dies down immediately, because, you know, you're there to call them out on that. You actually stand them up on that. There have been times where people have, you know, started yelling and started shouting, and that's when you realize that it's a sunken boat. You can't do anything about it. So
I just can't tolerate it.
Yeah, so I start
yelling back.
No, I tell them that this is pointless and I do not want to be in this engage with you anymore, and hence I'm gonna walk out and you can be here yelling if you like, and that's what I do.
But what about the other kind of misconduct? When you were struggling also, but people do try to take advantage of humans, and and their needs and their consequences. Circumstances, I mean. Has it ever happened that anybody has made a wrong move on you?
Has someone touched me inappropriately?
Touched you,
Absolutely.
or maybe asked you out, or you know how it is, like
Asked me out, yeah, man. I mean, that happens, but it's okay. I mean, I also don't want to be this person that if someone's even complimenting me, I would, start running behind
not
them
like
saying
that.
that.
I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, no, but like, yeah, it has happened, and the reason why I've never kind of encouraged it or tolerated it at all, because I come from a family where we've been told that that's the background that I come from, that no matter what happens, your dignity and your self-respect is bigger than anything. Even your career, even your biggest movies, it doesn't matter when it comes to self-respect and what's right and what's not right. And the moment I'm okay losing out on a project, I'm okay if you don't give me work for the rest of my life, but I will not do something that's morally, ethically wrong. And that's that.
But thank you. I hope that people will now know the whole journey that went behind making of Rohit Saraf, who's a star today,
Rubbish.
and en route to becoming a superstar soon, inshallah. And just don't forget us. Just
will you let me forget you? You tell me that first. So
I am like Vikram and Betal mein wo Betal.
Vikram, Veda, or
Vikram Betal. My God, please.
What?
Vikram Betal is that.
Yeah, I know. Got it.
I'm like chip code. I'm never going.
Oh no, I'm glad.
But thank you.
Thank you.